What's the best theory on UFOs or aliens you've ever heard? If aliens are on this planet, that greys aren't fully biological, but rather remotely controlled androids. Or that they are biological, but their grey appearance is a suit and not the actual body. Imagine other life forms looking at our astronauts saying, "Here come the marshmallow cyclops creatures again." The premise in Lilo and Stitch: that Earth is a mosquito preserve. Aliens landed once in Africa. Got eaten by lions. Interdimensional, not extraterrestrial. That if any civilization elsewhere in the universe had the technology to reach us, for any reason, they'd be very likely to also be able to disguise their presence from our detection methods, i.e., they could observe us close up using nanotech. Aliens don't necessarily mean an intelligent civilization. There are so many star systems with potentially inhabitable planets out there that the chances that we have been the only life in the universe is extremely slim. The question, instead, is whether life arising elsewhere has managed to survive destruction and remain alive today such that they might be able to contact us. That is to say, there have probably been countless civilizations for the past several billion years that simply haven't made it. The best two I've heard: we don't allow ourselves to contact lost tribes in the Amazon or other wild places. Extraterrestrials may have similar laws on a galactic scale. We split the atom, but made weapons out of them instead of trying to reach the stars. They leave us alone out of fear that we'll destroy ourselves if war accidentally breaks out. That life in the universe could be so unrecognizable to us that we wouldn't even register it as being alien life. What if life on another world was not carbon-based, but another element? How would we even know what to look for, since our definitions and descriptions of life are based on a completely different perspective? They came. They saw. They weren't impressed. Any species advanced enough to find us wouldn't make contact. They'd study us the way we study animals, ideally with minimal interference. Compare the average abduction story to the way we dart large animals. Collect data and leave them to wake a bit groggy and confused but unharmed. This took off quite a bit more than I expected. I feel like I should be very clear that it's not a theory I completely agree with. I simply think it's an interesting idea that tends to create discussions. I just threw it in the ring to see what would happen. I agree with a lot of the criticism of it actually, but that's kinda the point. I used to wholeheartedly agree with this theory, but after much discussion, debate and reflection, my views have changed. But it's a good jumping off point. UFOs are higher dimensional objects moving through our dimension. Like, if we moved a 3D object through 2D space, to a 2D being it would look crazy weird. A hollow sphere would start as a dot, then look like a hula hoop that starts small, gets big, then small again. They'd have no idea what they were looking at. So WTF would a higher dimension object look like passing through our 3D dimension? It might rapidly change shape or appear to move at incredible speed as the whatever moved through our space-time. Gravity wouldn't affect it, I don't think. It wouldn't appear to have any form of propulsion. Brian Cox's, at least that's who I heard this from first, solution to the Fermi paradox. TLDR. Any most civilization advanced enough to get even close to interstellar travel becomes too energy intensive and destroys themselves their planet before they get far enough for interstellar contact. The movie Contact actually makes a good case that we haven't been visited by UFOs or aliens. Our most powerful broadcasts have traveled at best a few dozen light years from this planet. To put that into perspective, if the Milky Way galaxy was the same size as North America, the Earth would be a speck of dust floating around a knick-knack on a living room table in a house in Arizona. Our most powerful broadcast signals have made it to the end of the driveway, or at best across the street. If there were a hyper-intelligent species 2 blocks over desperately listening for signs of intelligence in the neighborhood, they wouldn't even know we existed for at least a couple thousand years. When they finally picked up our signal, Our first television broadcasts, it would take their response another couple thousand years to arrive here. They come from the ocean, not space. That there is no one else and we are those advanced aliens. It's interesting to think how true this could possibly be. I've never considered this. And on first pass I brushed it off. But then it got me thinking. At some point, a species had to start somewhere. And what if we are the advanced aliens? We may not feel like it. And it sounds odd to say it. But it's possible. It's just like starting a new MMORPG. You may only be level 25/999. But you are the first player to log on and are the one whose highest level has the most strength, speed, etc. It feels like it's hard to believe. But one day you'll be the top player. Assuming you didn't quit the game. Consider the fact that the human race is a divided mess of contradictory intents. We have the scientific community reaching out peacefully. Yet if aliens do come into the airspace of any nation, the first to greet them would be the military. You can imagine what the response of the military would be when a UFO enters forbidden airspace. Given the declassified government files regarding UFOs, it is quite likely that contact has been attempted in the past and the results being tragic. There is a very simple explanation as to why abductees independently described grey aliens as looking the same. There are no aliens and no abduction took place. But rather they are abstracting residual memories left over from being infants and looking up at adults. Before an infant's visual cortex is fully developed, an adult human looking down at them would appear rounded and grey in color with large eyes. Cross that indistinct memory with a sleep state subconscious and standard psychological patterns and boom. Alien abduction. It also explains the sensation of being lifted, examined and probed. Time traveling humans from the future. You know the trope in sci-fi shows, where they stumble upon the networks of the founders or the ancients or the architects. A civilization so advanced, long ago, that traveled the stars? That is us. We're seemingly alone because we're the first. Maybe they'll stumble upon us in a million years. That they are from a breakaway human civilization that is keeping their secrets to themselves. Essentially, that some place like Wakanda is real. Or that Jules Verne really isn't science fiction, it's actually science fact. When the rest of the world was making do with steam-powered industrialization, someone figured out anti-gravity and zero-point energy from the interaction between electromagnetism and gravity. So they kept this technology for themselves. And have been zipping around the rest of us keeping an eye on things. I don't believe it. But that they live in underground caves and dwell primarily in Antarctica. I don't remember the complete theory, but people say they're an advanced race adapted for life underground. And that they have advanced machinery because they have been living on the earth longer than humans. It's the hollow earth idea. It's been around a long time. IDK, but someone on here posted about something happening this year in July. They posted it like 7 or so years ago. I'm looking forward to some action this summer. Aliens may perceive the passage of time differently than us. Our whole existence could play out before they've had their proverbial morning coffee or vice versa. Do I believe it? No. Fun to think about. We're not the first. We are the aliens that we're looking for. Mammals are not native to Earth. The asteroid was a massive chunk of our planet and we populated the Earth after that. Is that a theory that I believe? No. Not at all. Is it a good concept for a sci-fi movie? Yes. That we are the first and or the most advanced life forms at this moment in space-time. I don't remember where I heard it, maybe some NPR program, but it's interesting to consider. We often discount the idea that we could ever be that special. But there is always the chance that we are. Someone had to be the first. That someone might just be us. The most logical theory I've ever heard is that 99% of alien sightings are set up by special intelligence agencies to distract from more nefarious things they are doing. The best theory I've ever heard is that aliens do want to make contact with us, but they're simply shy. All the UFO sightings throughout history are just humans from the future on a time traveling safari meant to observe how we were in the past. They are supposed to keep out of sight. But thanks to human mechanical errors there have been hiccups with their cloaking which have resulted in being seen. That's why there have always been so many reports of them throughout history. But there has never been an attack. It's just us. Also the reason why we don't see as many examples of UFOs now even though pretty much everyone has a camera is because people are not that interested in this time period since we already document aspects of human life all the time. If you wanted to explore space, you'd send technology instead of risking the life of a scientist. The little grey-green men and other now cliché depictions are just biological computers that they can control, and that's why they look so simplistic and unidentifiable. Reminds me of robots or droids. The US military has intentionally orchestrated alien sightings and kidnappings, as well as funded UFO religions and conspiracy theories, to prevent people from being taken seriously should they happen to notice some experimental planes and so forth. There are no aliens. But there are US military agents in goofy spacesuits who mutilate cattle and probe deranged people to encourage them to make fools of themselves. That we haven't met a single one yet because they're either as technologically advanced as us, or not as much as us. We always imagine thanks to movies and shit that aliens are superior beings, more advanced on every aspect. But what if all the sentient races of the universe are actually all roughly on the same level technologically speaking? What if the reason we still haven't met them is because they too can't travel any further than their own solar system or the closest astral body to them? And the reason we can't meet each other is because none of us are advanced enough technologically speaking to even find each other. Imagine what we think about aliens today. Now apply to what other races. They most likely think the same thing as us about what they call their aliens. UFOs are actually a result of mad scientists and not aliens. The only reason there aren't any sightings is because they record and upload videos of their experimental crafts to YouTube nowadays. Abductees are remembering a confabulation of their birth and handling by doctors, and don't know it. Aliens came to Earth in 2550 BC and built the pyramids as a gift to thank the Egyptians for introducing them to cats, the animal. Then they came back in 1981 and gave us the internet for introducing them to Cats, the musical. Then they came back once again in 2019 and gave us COVID-19 for introducing them to Cats, the movie. Prove me wrong. The aliens are us. Or rather, we are the result of them seeding the Earth with their DNA. No light speed travel needed. Our broadcasts don't need to travel the cosmos. They are already here. They always have been. They were our creator. They're evolved humans from the future. Here's an explanation I came up with while dosed on LSD decades ago. Aliens are actually us, humans, after we invent time travel. My theory. Most often aliens are described as the grey type. Big brain cavity. Big eyes. Small chin. Weak bodies. If you look back at our Neanderthal ancestors, you'll notice a few things. The jaws were huge and the brain cavity small. They were also much taller and more muscular than we are today. If you believe in evolution, you might think we are somewhere between Neanderthal and alien, like with our smaller framed bodies, small jaws, and bigger brains. Now, let's assume that the future Earth becomes dark, filled with pollution. This would subsequently block the sun, causing our skin to become pale, maybe even a shade of grey. We are forced to replicate air and live in an age of technology shrouded by our own dystopia. Our muscles become less used due to a technology-driven labor force. You may conclude that aliens are simply us coming back in time to fix things that had long-lasting negative impact. Trippy hug. Is there a theory that aliens are keeping tabs on the human race just to make sure we don't technologically advance to the point of humans being capable of deep space travel? The theory being the human race is so toxic that they don't want us contacting corrupting life on other planets. I can understand if aliens don't want to hear Xbox party chat on other planets. Neil deGrasse Tyson. I wonder if, in fact, we have been observed by aliens, and upon close examination of human conduct and human behavior they have concluded that there is no sign of intelligent life on Earth, he said. Tyson expanded on this idea by pointing out just how advanced an alien civilization would have to be to travel from a distant star system to our own. While by comparison humanity has only taken manned flights as far as the moon so far. With that in mind, he worries that said alien civilization would simply think of us as, well, worms. You don't walk by the worm on the street and say, gee, I wonder what he's thinking. No. You step on the worm, Tyson said. In summary, we might be to intelligent life what worms are to us. We might be thinking too highly of ourselves. That's what's fascinating to me. You don't walk by the worm on the street and say, gee, I wonder what he's thinking. We are the ghetto of the Milky Way. Intelligent, benevolent alien, stay away. The pirate type hasn't found us yet. Probably harvest us as protein. Exclamation point. Time traveling humans, if anything. UFO aliens doesn't seem plausible that they exist when we exist. That there are alien empires out there. But our planet is just restricted because it is on the border or neutral zone between them. So no visitors are supposed to appear, but some jump quarantine to visit and deal in exotic Earth goods. Also from Isaac Arthur. The sightings of UFOs are just black market traders in their janky spaceships who have bad stealth tech, so they are more easily sighted and sometimes even crash. The govs of Earth may have some low-level deals with them for protection against things like asteroids. Earth is a spaceship. And we're the aliens. The sun is our motor. Powered by our galaxy. We are the native fauna being observed by the inhabitants of various regions of space as we pass through it. Like a traveling circus. It may seem slow and inconvenient to us. But this is only our perception of time. What seems like the blink of an eye to us is years to a mosquito. And what seems like a lifetime to us is the blink of an eye to our observers. I find it interesting that we see proportionately less pictures footage of UFOs now that we all have cameras in our pockets than in the 80s when film was expensive. It should be dramatically more, yet it isn't. And with HD, 4K, 8K now we should have really high quality proof. At least some. In an alternate reality, we have developed different forms of technology due to different historical choices. So the humans of that alternate reality have advanced enough to travel to other realities. And another theory is that UFOs are just the alien equivalent of a microscopic lens. Our entire universe is just a petri dish. We are like a reservation or ecological reserve for them. We're not to be interfered with. Joe Rogan has entered the chat. Roswell. The fact that a military expert identified it as a spaceship publicly, then had to do a very staged photo op to discreet himself. And that a bunch of people in the military had weird stories from that time. Like flying a general to New Mexico then straight to Washington suggests they might have found something. Also, the government had to change their story and admit to lying doesn't sound great. I don't exactly believe it, but if I was forced to pick one, that would be it. For me it seems more likely that, in the haste to cover up Project Mogul, someone thought it would be a good idea to say it was a UFO. When they realized that was a bad idea, it was already too late. The weather balloon is a way better cover because it basically was one. This is pretty much just the official story though. Earth, the galaxy, the universe. One giant simulation in an alien's computer. All laws of physics are programmed into the sim. Aliens have no idea we exist in the sim. One day they will terminate the sim and everything just instantaneously goes poof. I had a fun theory that Earth is one of a few life-generating planets and that aliens are actually Earth-originated beings who have moved on to settle the galaxy. Any visits are them checking in on our development. And eventually we'll be advanced enough to join and make way for another wave. Not really a theory, I believe. More the basis for a story. The book Little Green Men. Aliens only abduct people that they know won't be believed. until a paperwork screw up leads them to kidnap someone with a trusting audience. I think if there's any intelligence with the capability of traveling through the vast distance of space, it's not going to be a bunch of individual beings riding around together in a spacecraft. I doubt it would be biological animals at all. Anything with that kind of capability and power would be quite abstract and unrecognizable. And probably entirely uninterested in communicating with us. Ancient aliens act. Maybe you seemingly don't have rivets or welds because cold welding can occur in any other atmosphere except ours. Not from space. But from here. But perhaps partially out of sync with us somehow. I think world mythology, fables, and other stories often describe similar beings. Throughout world history. This is just the most asimodone and popular take on the subject. I might be dumb. Follow me on this ride. Me and my cousins were 100% convinced was an alien living next door. He had a weirdly shaped pasture in his backyard. He randomly had soda machines next to the pasture that were not there or replaced with a totally different brand. With only 4 buttons. As a weirdo and geocaching funny joke, we went out there. It's so eerie seeing the things gone from out there. It's like nothing can grow in this ring of junk and trees. Funny enough, this property owners have died and it can't be found. But the overall creepy still exists. Adam and Eve were the single man and single woman that were sent from their dying planets to restart life. They landed on Earth, and the story in the Bible is a form of a creation story. But it's more like a rebirth of the human race. It's also funny that we say cats have 9 lives and we also have 9 planets. Depending on who you ask. Wouldn't it be crazy if Mars was that dying planet and we've advanced so far technologically that without knowing it we have advanced to the point of reversing the damage in Mars that caused us to leave, while at the same destroying this planet. Adam and Eve were the single man and single woman that were sent from their dying planets to restart life. Possible, but that would mean their 2 sons begged Eve to have more people on Earth. It's possible that no life form ever successfully moved from their planet and never will. Can't remember where I heard it. I know it was from a movie or TV show, but it went like if you took a cup to the ocean and filled it. The theory that really intrigues me is that other beings in the universe find it pointless to contact us as we are not highly evolved creatures. And that trying to make contact with us would be as if humans tried to make contact and communication with ants. We wouldn't be able to understand them or comprehend anything they would say. Different wavelengths or dimensions. If there's a difference. So, the same way we can't see, feel colors outside our visible spectrum, e.g. gamma rays. We're too different to interact with aliens. Sometimes they build odd contraptions to phase into our dimension. Sometimes mushrooms chemicals disrupt our brain enough to see into their dimension. Neither method works for very long. So there's just sightings without much interaction. My theory is that we actually have identified what they are, but we just don't really want to know. Kind of like a magic trick. Dark forest theory. I found this fascinating. Little description here for anyone wondering. The dark forest solution explains why we haven't heard from aliens by positing that they are purposefully keeping quiet. The reasoning is laid out best in the science fiction novel The Dark Forest by Liu Cixin. The plot of the book, the second in a series, concerns questions of how to best interact with potentially hostile alien life. In the novel, the argument is laid out like this. All life desires to stay alive. There is no way to know if other life forms can or will destroy you if given a chance. Lacking assurances. The safest option for any species is to annihilate other life forms before they have a chance to do the same. Since all other life forms in the novel are risk averse and willing to do anything to save themselves. Contact of any kind is dangerous, as it almost assuredly would lead to the contacted race wiping out whoever was foolish enough to give away their location. This leads to all civilizations attempting to hide in radio silence.